Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And David, on this week's Riff, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, I think you know, Mike, because it's on your lap.
Yeah, and it fits on there quite snugly, actually.
It does.
It's a tiny little box. Yeah. I've had to bring the actual box for it, so I had to pad it out a bit. But this is a
Wiim Pro Plus.
Yeah, it's really quite cool. It's a dinky streaming device.
It is.
With a built-in DAC as well, so it does kind of a bit of everything. I quite like it.
Yeah.
And it's quite funky. I like this form factor. I like. We've talked about this a lot on Hi-Fi Riff. I quite like it when you can get your mobile phone as your source and a little DAC like this. And we recently reviewed the realistic Minimus speakers, which are tiny little things with a little amplifier. And hey presto, away you go. You've got a bona fide hi-fi system, haven't you?
Yes, you'd probably have a unique bona fide hi-fi system, because I don't think Wiim were thinking of the realistic Minimus 7.
They should have been, because it sounds awesome. But this is really rather inexpensive for what you get, isn't it? I think
£219.
£219 Great British pounds. See, that's a bargain, I reckon.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's one of the genuine hi-fi bargains at the moment.
Yes.
Because it's actually, despite its diddy size, it's packed with tech.
Yes.
And it does pretty much everything, doesn't it? It'll stream from almost any platform. And yesterday, which was 21/12, also known as Rush Day, there was a software update, and it's now fully Roon certified.
Yes.
So, which is really cool.
It's lucky that this episode is going out on around about the 8th of January, isn't it?
That's very true. That's a very good point. Okay. Yesterday in our real-time universe here. So, yes, 21/12.
This is what I have to work with.
I'm so sorry. Amateur hour, as usual, on Hi-Fi Riff.
You just couldn't stop yourself talking about 21/12, as in Rush Day.
I just had to get that in. I had to get that in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's now Roon ready.
Yeah.
Now, I might be losing my marbles here, but I think since it's become Roon certified, it sounds better.
Right.
Now, is that possible? Is kind of my question. So I've been using their app, which is a bit clunky, but lots of apps are. Been using their app, and so streaming from Qobuz.
Yeah.
And on my Roon platform, I'm also streaming from Qobuz.
Yeah.
So the source is kind of the same, but to my ears, I think it sounds better via Roon than via its native app. Now, I can't quite see how that works, but there we are.
So what were you drinking?
There's strange things happen in hi-fi, though, aren't there? And we both know that.
Yeah.
There are things which definitely make a difference, which probably shouldn't.
Well, was it like disabling your LED on your LP12?
Oh, God, do you remember that?
So,
was that a Peterbilt?
I can't remember. I don't think it was, actually. But
yes.
Yeah, so for our younger viewer, note the single tense there.
Yeah. Actually, may I say, for younger viewer, my friend Thomas, who's just become a subscriber, he's our youngest viewer. So
okay.
Thomas, what a mate.
Audi 49? 50?
Yes, right. Yeah. He's old despite his years.
Okay, all right.
Excellent.
So back in the 80s, and sorry to Wiim, because we're now on one of our famous diversions.
We are.
So there was this kind of rumour going around that LP12 sounded better if you disabled the LEDs.
There was.
They just had one power LED on the turntable, and I actually know someone who did disable.
It wasn't me.
No, I don't think it was.
I know you're insinuating it was, but it wasn't me.
No.
I just kind of think some of it is a bit snake oilish. But it was a bit weird for me. That I genuinely felt it was an improvement in the sound quality.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way to use this little box because, as I say, the app's okay, but it's nothing really to write home about.
Yeah.
It's not as good as some of the apps which we've used out there, not as bad as some of the apps which we've used. But I think using it with a really nice interface works really well. And I love some of the compatibility of it as well. Because it's got a digital input, hasn't it?
Shall I do the socket thing?
Oh, you see, you've stolen my thunder.
Yes, well, I've been. I feel that with the greatest respect to the master socket botherer, I can't really do this justice in the way that you'd be able to, because you'd be talking about those RCA phono outputs with immense enthusiasm.
I would.
And whereas as far as I'm concerned, they're just RCA phono outs. So there you go.
Heathen.
But it's got an Ethernet as well, which will come as a major relief to anyone who cares about sound quality.
Before you just go any further, can I just say the glitch which I found, and maybe this is me, is if I used the Ethernet input, then I couldn't use the app.
Okay.
And if I used the Wi-Fi, I couldn't use Roon.
Right.
So just for my particular network setup, I had to have it hardwired in to use Roon.
Okay.
Which was a bit peculiar, and heaven knows why. But
well, I'm sure all those rich people who use Roon will be very happy to hear that handy piece of advice for rich people who use Roon like you.
There we are. Yes, it's a full £100 a year or something like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
yes.
Well, that's basically your bar bill down at the Hi-Fi pub, isn't it?
It is. It is. We won't say which frequency of bar bill.
No.
But yes, absolutely.
So as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted
again.
So yeah, it's got digital. Let's have a look. It's got digital inputs there.
Can I just say you've got to get this right, because I got this wrong on the. What did I get this wrong on? On one of our recent decks, which we did, the Lumen. And I got slated for omitting it had a digital output.
Okay, well, these little things here are called Toslinks, right? They're digital opticals.
Yes.
And it's got one little coaxial digital in as well, hasn't it?
So it's got a digital input, so it can convert analog to digital.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No,
sorry, it's got an analog input. I beg your pardon. Analog input, so it can convert analog to digital, can't it?
I'm not sure if it does that or if that's just a pass through, but
okay.
What I can tell you is it's got those two opticals and a coax, and obviously we have here is the power, which is a USB kind of thingy.
USB-C.
Yes, thank you. There you go. Well, you're the expert. You know.
No, I got that wrong as well recently.
Did you? Okay.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I've had a nightmare on recent riffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so interestingly with that, because it's got the USB-C input, you could, if you wanted to, use some kind of flashy linear power supply with it, should you so desire. Yeah. I didn't. I just used a sort of standard Samsung, charger, but and it worked really well. So unbelievably simple to set up, sort of almost plug and play. But in terms of its sound, I mean, at the price, there's nothing close to it.
Yeah.
And I probably think you're going to have to spend at least twice as much, to get something which is, maybe on a par with it, even maybe not even better.
Yeah, so, I mean, I really like the packaging on this. It's just a kind of small. It's like a Mac Mini, isn't it?
It is like a Mac Mini. Yeah, it's about the same size as a CD case, isn't it?
Yeah, and it weighs about 400 grams if memory serves. It's super light, and it's as you said, got Bluetooth. It's got Wi-Fi. Chromecast, Apple AirPlay 2, and here we have on the front, we have the little kind of, they're not buttons, are they? They're sort of touch controls.
Touch sensitive,
They're sort of capacitive.
And one LED, and that's it on the front.
Yeah.
So, and you can have it so it's fixed volume out or variable. So you can use it as a preamp as well, which is actually what I've been doing. I've been using the preamp stage out of it straight into a power amplifier. And it's been working a treat. Been working really nicely.
Absolutely. Yeah, so play, pause, volume up and down, setup and Bluetooth pairing. So it's easy and simple to use. The handset, I think there's a remote control.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. I've got it here. Look, so it's actually quite a decent one. It's not sort of the sort of horrible generic one that's just been rebranded. Quite like that. I think it's quite funky. This is becoming almost like a proper review, isn't it?
Yes.
We've only gone off at a tangent once, and we're actually talking about the product.
So let's get back to LP12.
Absolutely
so
right.
Yeah. Did you ever try your LP12 with the felt mat up the other way?
Of course I did.
So I'm sure someone said it sounded better.
Yeah, of course it did. And the belt the other way around, and all sorts of things.
Yeah. Yes. Thank God for that. We've
gone off at a tangent again.
Much better now.
I do feel better too.
Yes, absolutely. So this has got an AKM DAC. I think it's a 4493 and 32-bit 768 and DSD 512. So all the latest fancy stuff to get all of the digital guys really excited, even though they haven't got any files that.
No, sure. But we'll support all the high res stuff.
Yep. And yes, that's right. It's got an A to D as well. That's what it is. It's an A to D. It's
good. I didn't say something completely wrong this riff.
No, you were
That's good.
quite right. So
I'm very pleased to hear that.
But I haven't played with this for about a month or two, and you've obviously had it in your house.
I have. I've had it for a while. It's been cool. So, I've been using it quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I say, I do really quite like it. But we did something quite weird when we were doing a previous riff, and I think it was on what was the DAC which we plugged into it, which cost sort of about £2,000. Was that the was that our Texan DAC?
I'm just trying to think which previous riff that would be.
Oh yeah, gosh.
So there was a
we plugged a really nice DAC into this.
Oh right, yeah. So that was a benchmark.
The benchmark. It was the
3B.
benchmark. That's it. The 3B.
Yeah.
And
which is the American DAC that you refer to.
Yes, and actually, I mean, obviously, look, it's going to make a massive difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you plug a £2,000 DAC into this, and I mean, no one's probably going to do that really. But we were really impressed, and it sounded pretty damn good, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think not that you do that, but you could upgrade it if you wanted to. You
Yep.
could probably upgrade it quite simply with, say, a Chord Mojo or something like that, which would actually be a really nice little system. Because the interface on this is cool with Roon.
Yeah, I think a Mojo would definitely be an improvement in sound.
It would.
And this isn't bad. It sounds kind of perfectly good until you put something better on.
Yeah.
It's just got a kind of fairly smooth and slightly kind of bland sound. It's quite inoffensive. It's nice enough, but you can do better. But then again, it's only £219.
Absolutely.
And you're not paying DCS money, are you? So.
If I wanted to get into streaming, and I want to sort of dip my toe in the water, and not sort of spend a fortune in case it wasn't quite my thing, this would definitely be my place to start. And I think this is perfect for accessing all of those weird and wonderful songs on Qobuz.
Yeah.
Almost everything you can get except for Dennis Waterman, of course.
Yes, well, that is the main disadvantage. With,
I'm a bit
streaming.
shocked. I'm a bit shocked actually, knowing that our influence and reach we have in Hi-Fi Riff, that Qobuz have not put Dennis Waterman on their platform yet.
I'd say it's a major oversight.
It is, and we're very disappointed.
Yes, well, you are.
We're thinking of switching to Tidal. So yes.
So you use streaming a lot more than I do, and you're crestfallen that you can't get. I could be so good for you.
You see, this would be good for you because you're not a massive streamer. You don't stream all that often, and this would do, wouldn't it, for your occasional use?
Yes.
So this would be perfect. So, I think it's really, really great product.
Yeah,
I think it's just absolutely on point. Very trendy at the moment as well, isn't it? The Wiim.
I'll just I'll just unplug my DCS Vivaldi streaming deck and get that, Mike.
You may as well because if you have a £50,000 streamer, you never use it. So because it's absolutely fine. I'm not knocking that because your analog sources sound amazing.
Yes, so, and, when you've got as many turntables as I have, if you listen to streaming all the time, it would be a complete complete waste of time, wouldn't it? So.
It never fails to amaze me when you sort of phone up and you say, "Oh, we'll do a turntable this week on Riff," and one just sort of appears out of the ether, which I didn't even know you had. I mean, the last Riff was a classic case in point with the Technics, which you sort of suddenly appeared out of your car. So, which was really cool. Which somebody said, I think, on one of our riffs, it looked like a really elaborate toasted sandwich maker.
Yes.
Which I thought was a great comment, because it does. It looks like the coolest toasted sandwich maker ever.
And I know you're a big fan of toasted sandwiches, Mike.
I had one for lunch, would you believe? There we are.
I would believe that, actually.
Oh, good. We've gone off tangents.
And on that bombshell.
We've gone off tangents.
This is why, all these thousands of viewers tuned in to know what you had for lunch. Don't tell me it was cheese and tomato.
I don't really like tomato toasted sandwiches because the specific heat capacity of the tomatoes too extreme, and so your tomato gets hotter than the sun, and your cheese sort of is not on the same temperature. So
sorry for asking.
First degree burns and all that. You get musical fidelity A1 burns.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you need to get the oven gloves out.
Are you going to answer the question?
I've forgotten what it was.
Okay.
What's the question?
What was it? What was in your toasted sandwich?
Oh, just cheese. Toasted cheese sandwich.
God.
Very boring. Yeah.
So it's lucky I didn't bring a loaded gun with me, because I would have shot myself.
I don't know. I'm sure people realise this, but we kind of tend to record 3 or 4 riffs on the trot. We don't always just wear the same clothes all day. Well, I do, but
he does.
But this week, this is our first one we've recorded today, and we haven't even had a drink yet.
Yes.
So God knows what it's going to be like in another hour. I think we're having a bit of Christmas euphoria today. So.
Well, it's kind of we're a bit demob happy, end of season.
Absolutely, both finished work quite.
So it's it's a tough life, and here we are. Talking about your toasted sandwiches, Mike.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the Wiim.
Right.
So I used this with my classic system. So I plugged this into my Exposure Super 8 power amplifier.
Yeah.
Straight into the quad electrostatics.
Yeah.
ESR 63s, and actually I really liked it.
Yes.
I thought it sounded great. And I've played a big variety of music.
Yeah.
I've been playing just kind of all sorts of stuff really. There's a new Peter Gabriel album out, I.O., which I really quite like. I've been listening to that. I think that's quite cool. I think it's the best thing he's done in years, to be fair. So that's been sort of on the I was going to say on the turntable, but you know what I mean.
On the Wiim Pro.
On the Wiim Pro.
Via Roon.
I've been revisiting an old Rush album which I haven't listened to in ages, which is Hemispheres, and I've forgotten how good that was.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed listening to that on here as well, which has again been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I've also been listening
to...
to...
the one with La Villa Strangiata?
It is, and the trees and all that.
Yeah. It's a great album, I think.
It's an amazing album.
Yeah.
Amazing album.
Yeah.
And I've also been listening to some of the records which you've been playing recently. So I had a bit of blast of Alphonse Mouzon through this. Right. Thanks, Chris Franklin, if you're watching. Actually, that sounded really good as well.
But tragically not Dennis Waterman.
No, Dennis Waterman. I have no way of playing Dennis Waterman through this. That's a serious omission, isn't it?
Them's the breaks.
Yes, absolutely. You could always record me a copy.
I could,
because you couldn't. Okay, here's my technical question then.
Yeah.
You could use the analog to digital converter, couldn't you, to record me a copy?
We'll have to see if that
from analog. Yeah. So from that Nakamichi cassette deck you sold me.
Yeah.
And then we could digitize it.
Yeah.
Could we do that?
We could. We'd have a go anyway. We'd have a play around.
Yeah. Very cool.
See what's possible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's a good product, unbelievably well priced, and a whole lot of rosy.
Yeah, and I actually like it because it doesn't have a big flashy display. It doesn't sort of try and draw attention to itself. You could easily just sort of put it out the way and you're behind the back of your hi-fi cabinet or something.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't need to be seen, actually, does it? Or your contact point is the app.
Yes.
So Roon in your case, because you're an affluent hi-fi audiophile who can afford to use Roon, unlike some of the plebs who have to use the Wiim app, which isn't so good. So it's kind of discreet, and I quite like that about it, actually.
And you're right, because you can actually change whichever output you want via the app as well.
Yeah.
So if you could plug all three different outputs in, if you so desire, into three different things, and
it's like a kind of phono stage. It can be heard but not necessarily seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So there we go.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's do a riffometer on the Wiim Pro.
Yes.
What are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it 8.5.
Yeah, that's a good score, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think it's the world's most earth-shattering thing, but I just think it's really good, really handy, and does the job very well. The only reason I'm marking it down is that there are things like the Cambridge Audio MXN10, which are just a bit more expensive, which I think are slightly better built. This is a bit sort of plasticky, isn't it?
It is.
And the Cambridge Audio has a great app as well, doesn't it?
It has a brilliant app. Probably it's the Stream Magic app. It's probably one of the best apps you can get for all of this stuff.
So 8.5, maybe 9 on a very good day. If you'd offered me a toasted sandwich and I was in a good mood, instead of sitting here starving to death
without a beer,
we
can rectify all of this.
Yes,
he'll be a lot cheerier for the next riff.
Yes. Well, you never know. So how about you then, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay.
I see no reason to not give that a 9. It's proper hi-fi for 220 quid.
Yeah.
And it's so unusual to have that. we did it. We've done a couple of amps recently, haven't we? Because we did the Kevin Edwards amp, Edwards audio amp, which was very inexpensive, and very good quality. We did the shit amp. Again, very inexpensive, very good quality, and I can't help but think, here we go again. We can build a hi-fi system without spending huge amounts of money. Right, okay, I've got a question for you, and you were teasing me earlier about saying we plugged the realistic minimus into here. If we had the, say for example, Kevin Edwards amp, the Edwards audio amp, and we had the Wiim, what speakers, if I gave you a budget of say £100 from eBay, what speakers would you pair with that as a little system?
Monitor Audio Radius 90 HDs.
There we go. We should get a pair of those then in that case, and we should try it out. How much are they going to set me back?
On eBay, about 80-90 quid.
Okay.
And they're just little tiny monitor audio speakers like that. And as you say, we should get a pair.
Now,
but they're very good small speakers that you can buy cheaply on eBay, and I think you can still buy them new as well.
Okay.
For about 300 and something quid, maybe something like that. So that would be my choice.
No, very good, very good. I'm still hoping that Cyrus are going to send me a pair of their linear speakers.
Yes.
Because they no longer make them, but they sound really quite beguiling, and I think they work really well with these as well.
Yep.
I like those. It may be that when this Riff comes out, you won't be able to buy the monitor audios on eBay because I'll have bought.
Right.
I'll have found a pair now and bought them.
Okay.
Because that's my MO these days. So
yes.
We just I listen to what you say. Buy it on eBay cheap before we release the Riff.
Delay the release of the Riff as long until
I've got a pair.
Yes.
Just like I did with the Realistics.
I wonder why some of those old ones were taking such a long time to come through.
And on that bombshell, so good solid 9 from me. Really good. Thoroughly enjoyed playing with the Wiim. And thoroughly enjoyed this Riff.
Yeah.
So thank you very much indeed for watching, and we will see you at the next one.
Bye.
Bye.